Very happy now to be joined by Browns head coach Kevin Stefanski, who just completed his first draft in the NFL as a head coach. And obviously, unique circumstances. But as you're able to sit here and reflect now, 7 men added to the Cleveland Browns, how did you feel about how things went?
Yeah, Nathan, I thought it was, we had a plan going into it. And then, as you know, whether you're going into a game or going into a draft, certain things are going to come your way that you did not see happening. So I thought we were able to navigate that pretty well. Credit goes to Andrew Berry and his crew. Really impressive to watch Andrew work this weekend. He was definitely the leader out in front, directing traffic. And I thought it was just a collaborative effort. And like you said, we were able to add 7 really good people, good players to our group.
Yeah, as I talk about always the 3 Ps, you guys are prepared, you have the plan, and you have a process to execute that plan, coach, and you guys went through it. And let's start. I go back to the combine. I remember he sat next to me in Indianapolis. He said, man, it is easy to fall in love with some of these offensive linemen. And I guess you were probably smitten with Jedrick Wills at that point. How great was it to see him on the board? You guys make that pick, get the left tackle of the future.
Yeah, and the truth for me, I don't spend a lot of time scouting during the year. So when January rolls around, I'm looking at these guys for the first time. So really, I had watched a little bit of Jedrick on tape, but the combine was the first time I'd really kind of deep dive into his background and into his tape, and was so impressed. And I can remember sitting there watching him move in the individual drills, and just his feet were incredible. So that will always stuck with me. And then you watch the tape and it confirms that this guy has the skill set to be a really good player for a long time in our system. And then you sit down and you interview him, and that's your first exposure to the person. And I think he checks all the boxes. I think our city will love this guy. He's as tough as they come. He plays through the echo of the whistle, and that's something that we're really looking forward to bringing him to this city. And I think we will be really happy we got him.
I'm sure you're pretty happy that not only did you get him to play left tackle, you got Jack Conklin as well, and really kind of transform this line very quickly at the bookends here in the span of a month. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, and I think that, again, credit to AB and the crew. Saul had the vision to lay this plan out in terms of how we wanted to attack this thing, identified Jack very early on as a guy that made sense for us for a bunch of different reasons. And then to come back in the first round of the draft and get somebody like Jedrick, feel really good about adding those 2 guys to the room.
And then on day 2, you go into the defense. You had a playmaker at all 3 levels. We'll start with Grant Delpit, who in 2018, you watched the guy, 5 sacks, 5 interceptions, 14 pass breakups, was really maybe the best defensive player in college football that season, and obviously played through an injury. You talk about the toughness, I'm sure, but to be able to get a player like that at 44. Oh, and by the way, add a 5th-round pick, and we'll talk about the center, Nick Harris, that you got with that pick later on. That had to be a great start to day 2 for you.
Yeah, that was a great get. You mentioned, I mean, Grant Delpit's just a really, really good football player. I could see right away on tape, this guy is a playmaker. He makes plays all over the field, whether it's from the deep post, whether it's down near the box. I mean, this is a guy that's got versatility. We mentioned yesterday that he has played every position in that defense in the back end, that is, except corner. So you can line him up at dime. Really some flexibility because he's got the skill set for it. He's got the toughness for it. Really an impressive guy when you talk about some of the tight ends that you have to face in our division and in our conference. You need a guy that you can feel confident can come down and cover those tight ends.
Yeah, and you think about just the rule changes in the NFL. Let's just say over the last decade, a lot of them, and I'm sure and have taken advantage of them, have favored the offense. And really for the defense, having versatility and the ability to disguise things is really the only advantage that they have left. And a guy like Grant Delpit gives you that opportunity for Joe Woods as your defensive coordinator.
Definitely. And I think Joe, the system that we're running and the system that Joe's installing really prefers those versatile guys. And you mentioned disguise and guys that can play deep, guys that can drop down, and that's certainly something that fits Grant's skill set.
All right, you continue on day number 2. Jordan Elliott, the defensive tackle out of Missouri, was your pick. You guys moved back, picked up a 3 in next year's draft as well, and still get Elliott. And you think about that rotation now: Sheldon Richardson, Larry Ogunjobi, Andrew Billings, and now Jordan Elliott going into the mix. That's a pretty darn stout group in the interior of your defensive line.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head. It's a rotation. We're not going to play 4 guys 70 plays. It's just we're going to make sure that we wave guys in, have some fresh bodies, because the way we're going to play defense in that attacking style, you really have to have a wave. You have to have a second wave that you feel good about, that the first group can take a rest for a couple plays, bring in these young guys and see what they can do. So just a guy who we feel like once our coaches get their hands on him, on Jordan, that is, and explaining this system, is a guy that can really get off the ball, can be disruptive. This system is looking for guys that can have that explosion out of their hips. So I think we found somebody that fits this defense, and I like everything about the player. I like his demeanor, and I think he brings a ton of toughness to the room as well.
Yeah, you always look for that one trait, and his get off, that quick first step, that explosiveness stands out when you watch Jordan Elliott. And then you go and you grab a linebacker, rounding out day 2, your third and final pick. Ultimately, it would be on the defensive side of the ball in Jacob Phillips, the leading tackler in the SEC, the middle of that defense, the national champions. By the way, teammate of Delpit, teammate of Greedy Williams, long, athletic. Again, what was the thinking there? What was the trait that you guys sought in Phillips?
Yeah, I mean, again, you've done your homework, Nathan. Nice job. Long and athletic, and that's something we're looking for. The type of defense that we ask the guys to play in the pass zones. We need those linebackers to run with some of these verticals, and I think you see a guy with long levers can be disruptive in the pass game and in zones. So it never hurts to turn on the tape and look at a player and just playing sideline to sideline with effort and thumping people. I mean, we'll find a home for a guy that plays with that type of tenacity.
Yeah, Paul DePodesta shared with us on, I believe it was Friday night after these picks, that after you made the picks of both Phillips and of Jordan Elliott, that you guys received some texts from other teams that, hey, you guys just took our guy. And I'm sure, listen, I only get to live this in a fantasy draft. That's always fun when you take somebody and they say, you got our guy. That had to be a pretty neat little experience there for you as well, rounding out day number 2.
Yeah, it's better to be on that side of it, definitely. It does happen. I mean, you identify guys and you're watching the picks tick off, and you're just crossing your fingers and hoping, and then sometimes the guy goes, and that's life. So you make sure that when your pick is coming up, you kind of have 3 or 4 names ready to go. But we did receive some of those texts, and that does make you feel good that your evaluation is probably on par.
All right, we go into day 3, back to the offensive side of the football for you, and we'll start with the tight end. And I was honestly surprised he was still on the board there. Harrison Bryant, over 1,000 yards. First guy from a non-Power 5 conference to ever win the Mackey Award as the nation's best tight end. A willing blocker, played in the wide zone scheme. That's what he said. That was their primary run down there with Lane Kiffin. So what was the thought process there? And it seemed like for you, this has to be a perfect fit for what you like to do offensively.
Yeah, we were surprised he was there, and you never know how this board's going to unfold, and guys slide for a bunch of different reasons. So when he was there, we just saw the value there. This is a good football player, really good movement skills, good receiver, tough. I think can fit in that room great. And people wonder, do we have too many of those guys? The answer is no. It's our job to figure out how to use them. So with Austin and David, and now you add Harrison in here, you got Farrow, you got Steven Carlson. I mean, that's a really strong group, and we're looking for a really strong group. And at no point do we ever want to be just 1 deep or 2 deep at any of these positions. We want to have multiple guys that we can throw at a defense.
I'll tell you, you look at the stats, see over 1,000 yards receiving, the first time a tight end's done that since 2013 in college football. You look at 15-plus yards a catch, the 7 touchdowns. But what stood out to me when I got to talk to him after he was drafted is he likes to block. And I think that's got to be music to a coach's ears, because for a tight end, even Austin Hooper, he said that's the biggest transition is you got to know everything in the pass game, but you have to know everything in the run game. And if you can't block, you can't play.
Yeah, that's the truth. And having coached that position, that willingness to block, that's the first step. And he definitely has that. And then we'll, help him with his techniques. But he's not afraid to stick his nose in there. And that's a big deal with what we're planning to do in the run and the pass game.
So you get a 5th-round pick. Didn't start the draft with a 5th-round pick. You get one just for moving back 3 spots, which is kind of amazing when you think about it. You got exactly who you wanted, and it turns into another player. And that player, Nick Harris out of Washington, 2-time first-team All-Pac-12 as a center, also played some guard for them. But I saw one stat that blew my mind, 800, nearly 900 pass protection snaps, 2 sacks allowed there at Washington. And it sounds like a guy familiar with and a perfect fit for the outside zone scheme.
Yeah, we think so. We think Nick. I really like his makeup. I like the person. I think he's the right guy as a center, as an interior guard, where it's hand-to-hand combat and you're in tight quarters. And I just think he's got great leverage. He's got the athleticism to get up to the second level. So we feel like there's some versatility between the guard and center spots. But give us these smart and tough guys and let our coaches figure it out.
Absolutely. And you value those movement skills. And if you're going to play center or guard in this, it's about that double team, moving the guys down the line, and then getting to that second level, getting on the linebacker so Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt can have those big runs, right?
That's the plan.
That is the plan. All right. One last pick. And there was a lot of talk. This is a historic wide receiver draft. And I think we saw him go so early, 20%, I think, of the first 3 rounds, the picks were receivers. And then there was a little bit of a lull, but I got to tell you, think about a former 5-star recruit, 6'2", 215. He can run a 4.4 40. Donovan Peoples-Jones, you guys had to be ecstatic to get that type of a body, that type of an athlete at this point in the draft there in the 6th round.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, as everybody knows, those combine numbers jump out to you. But I think what we see is a trait of speed, of size, of athleticism that really we have to figure out how to use him. And I think I say that because he's played outside, he's played inside, he's been a returner. So I really think that the nice part for us is there's some versatility there, and that allows us to see what he can do, and we can kind of move him around. He can play teams for Coach Preef. He's a big physical guy. So I just think having a guy that you can see the athleticism readily apparent to you, and then it's our job to go and put him in positions to succeed offensively and make an impact in special teams as well.
Yeah, and another very smart young man. And it sounds like you guys talk about, smart, tough, accountable. You really look at this draft and you see that reflected in the 7 men that you brought into this organization.
I hope so. I mean, that's what we set out to do. And again, we had a plan, and credit to Andrew Berry, credit to the scouts and the coaches and their evaluations. We stuck to that plan.
How hard is it to know that you can only have a virtual offseason? I know when you get these new toys, you want to get them out there, get them on the field, get a chance to look at them, whether it's the free agents or now these young rookies. But is that one of the toughest parts of this virtual offseason that we're dealing with here for you?
Yeah, obviously we'd love to be with the guys. You'd love to sit eyeball to eyeball with them and get to know the people. Definitely, you'd love to get out in the grass. And when that's appropriate and when that's safe, we'll do that. But in the meantime, we got a great plan to teach our systems via these online platforms. And there's a lot of Zoom meetings going on, and a lot of guys spending time with their teammates and with their coaches. So we have a plan, and I think credit to our coaches. I think just 1 week into this program, I really believe that our guys are going to make strides in this offseason.
When you sit back, if you would have said at the beginning, look, we're going to get the guy we want in the 1st round, we're going to get the guy we want in the 2nd round, we're going to add a 3rd rounder for next year and turn a 7th basically into a 5th at the net of it, would you have said, I hope that can happen? I'm not sure that's going to be able to happen. Was this all said, when it's all said and done, you look back and say, I'm pleased. Obviously, we'll know in 3 years or so if they become the players that you drafted them to be. But for sitting back in terms of sticking to that plan, executing it, and having this outcome, that had to feel pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, and it does, but you hit it right again. These are not finished products. So there's so much work to be done with these guys, and they all recognize that, and we do too. So we're not getting the end product. It's our job to make sure we bring these guys along, make sure that they're getting better every single day, so that when we do start playing these ball games, they're ready to roll. But it's a good start, and I'm really looking forward to getting to work.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say that's the key. It's the only thing that can get there is work. Can't speak it into existence, as you often say. Coach, thank you so much for the time. Congratulations on what appears to be at this juncture a successful 1st draft. And I know you can't wait to see this team come together. Neither can our fans. We appreciate you, and thanks so much for joining us.
All right. Thanks, Nathan.